Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On Monday, glad you're here for Ask the Theologian. We are broadcasting at a lower, I don't know what you call it, bit rate? Is that the right terminology? At a lower bit rate today. So if it seems a little fuzzy, it's on our end, not your end. Got some internet network issues. The repairman is coming today, and so we hope that solves the problem. But in order to keep you from having as little lagging as possible, we're lowering the level at which we're sending it out, so the quality might not be quite as good as normal. And hopefully we'll make it. Hey, there is a chance too. The repairman's supposed to come, sometime after 11. But if they come early, they'll cut off our internet, and there it goes. So if we disappear, or if I have to stop and end real quick, you know the reason. But just wanted to try to get in as much as we could here in our programs, and I appreciate that very much, as we take your biblical, theological, and worldview questions, and you be praying that whatever there is they're changing out today. What is that thing called? Do you know?
The modem.
Is that the thing outside? Mm-hmm. Oh. I thought it had some fancy name to it. It's a modem. They're changing out the modem. And we clearly got a problem, but anyway, hopefully that solves our problem. And appreciate that. Hey, I just noticed here, question from Edith. Your hermeneutic series has been very helpful. Will you or have you put it into book form? Thank you very much. The answer is yes, I will. I am writing it as we go, so you are watching the writing of the book. And we'll begin editing that. Already got Brother Everett in Sholo, Arizona, kind of reading through those and checking through those as we go, and trying to get it down and get it going. So that'll be out. Fairly shortly after I finish the series. I don't think it'll take us long to get it into book form once it's done, because I'm writing as a book as we go. So I appreciate that. I hope it's a valuable book, especially for those who are teaching and preaching, that maybe it would be used, and that would be nice. It would be really nice, though. Don't hold your breath. If we could get at least some little Bible colleges to use it in teaching their students hermeneutics. So I appreciate all that. Okay, let's get in here and. Here's another tech question. Betty Jo out in Arizona. She says probably a question for Nathan. Past couple of weeks or so, I haven't been able to watch on Worshify. When I click on anything, it just doesn't respond. I've noticed that a time or two as well. I just get black screen. Like it's processing, but it's not processing. Anyway, I have to watch everything on YuckTube, she says. Is that on my end? Thanks, love Biblify, and thankful I can use that. Thank you, Betty Jo. That could be something to do with our internet issues. Let's see. I'll have Nathan investigate that, Betty Jo, and see what exactly is happening there. But I have run into that once or twice as well. Okay, see if we can get all up here. Where should we begin? Let's begin with a question that comes from Pastor Bays. It's a long one, a long time out there. We'll begin with that. Question about Elohim. In our television program here, we'll take 28 and a half minutes of being professional, and then we'll come back to just being me and you, and having a good time to chat and have a good conversation here, and finish it out. Again, broadcasting on a little bit lower level. If it's that bad, we will have a recording that we can upload later if it's too bad for you. So thanks for being with us on this Monday. Still room for your your questions, send them into askthetheologian.com, or use the word question. If you're on YouTube, use the word question before you submit your question, or if you put the word question or a question mark on Worshify, you'll be able to submit as a question. It'll ask you if you would like to submit as a question, and you can do that. And with all that said, let's get this 28 and a half minutes started. I'll be right back. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ask the Theologian. I'm Dr. Randy White, and here we take your biblical, theological, and worldview questions and attempt to answer them from a rightly divided perspective. Our ministry is randywhiteministries.org, or you can find questions and submit questions at askthetheologian.com. And we begin today with a question that comes from Liberty Mounds, Oklahoma. And the question is about the Hebrew word for God, Elohim. Mark says, can you explain why the word is in the plural form but made singular when used in a singular verb? That is to say, the word itself is in the plural form. As a matter of fact, any Hebrew word that ends in im, pronounced im, like Elohim, Seraphim, Cherubim, Teraphim, all those im words are plural. Normally, when you see those, it would come out as, well, oftentimes in the English translations, let's take seraphim, for example. If you just take the Hebrew word, it is seraphim. If it's translated, often it is translated into the word seraphs. Here are the seraphs. There is a singular seraph. There are multiple seraphim. But because seraphim doesn't always translate well into English, because English speakers don't know that im means more than one, the English translators will just make it seraphs. There are even a few times when Elohim is made in the plural as gods with a little g, G-O-D-S. One time it's even translated as judges based upon the context of the use there. So here you have this plural word, but it is often used with a singular pronoun. And the words around it are used in the singular. Now, this is, shall we say, a uniqueness to the Hebrew language that allows this plural word to be used in the singular. There is a singular form of it, El or Ele, Elo, and does become Elohim in the plural. You can find it in the singular, and it is even used of God in the singular. As a matter of fact, we know a lot of El Shaddai, for example, words, El Adonai, words that relate to God. But it appears that in this particular Hebrew word, Elohim, that the language itself accommodated the plural and used it as a singular, using it with other singular verbs, using it with other singular pronouns, as it is one of those languages in which the number of the speakers aligns. There is a different verb form, for example, that is used when you have a plural than when you have a singular, and yet it will take that plural noun and use a singular verb. It is as if the language knew that a singular was not really the way to discuss this, and yet it is a singular. It's as if the Hebrew language knows and accommodates the fact that you've got what we now know as a 3-in-1. I would take this as an aspect of divine progressive revelation, that in progressive revelation you have, of course, right from the beginning, in the beginning, God, Elohim, created in the singular right here. If we were to look into this Hebrew verb, it would be the singular, the third person singular. He created, God, he created the heaven and the earth, and yet God is in the plural. So from the very first verse of the Bible, there is this anomaly. It's an anomaly that is allowed in the Hebrew language for that particular word and that particular word only. And a close student of the word would immediately say, if they're reading into English, in Hebrew especially, they would immediately say, hey, there's something different about this. There's something I ought to investigate. There's something I ought to pursue. And with progressive revelation, all you can do is take a note over on the side and say, I got to figure this out. Is it in the beginning God's, plural, created the heaven and the earth? And later in verse 2, the Spirit of God's moved, and God's said, let there be light. You could make that assumption, and if you're just reading, I would suggest you do. I think that when you get something perplexing in the interpretation of the word, you write down every possibility that it could be. Now, it doesn't take long getting into the scripture that you realize this is not God's, this is a singular, and yet there seems to be this multiplicity within the singular, and so you say, could this be a singular made of plurals? How's that? And you begin to investigate it, and you say, hey, yeah, I think that there is. Even when you get to Deuteronomy chapter 6, and it says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. It does not use the mathematical word for one, as in singular, this is the only. It uses the word for unity. The Lord our God is one unified whole. Well, why didn't it just say the singular, the mathematic kind of one, instead of the unified kind of one? You begin to put this together and you begin to say, I think that there must be a Godhead far beyond just that which could be defined as a singular. There's a sense in which, sometimes you and I even will joke around, me, myself, and I, here it is. But in the very grammatical use of it, there's something built into the Hebrew language. And I happen to think the Hebrew language probably is the original language given by God to Adam. And that the line of Seth is the line that did not participate in the Tower of Babel. They were the ones that kept their own language, their original language, and so that there is a divine stamp upon the word Elohim. Honestly, there's probably no other way to explain it other than you've got a divine stamp upon this word, which makes it a very unique word, and a word that needs to be in the plural and needs to be in the singular. Appreciate that very much. Let's go to Bruce in Green Bay, Wisconsin, who's got another question related to Genesis, though Elohim certainly goes beyond Genesis. But this question is Genesis chapter 9, verses 22 through 25. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him, and said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Now, you certainly got this odd thing here that Ham saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren. And the two brethren come and cover this nakedness of their father. Now, Noah was drunk, his two sons covered him, but what is the sin of Ham? Ham here, really, from what we can tell from the text, all that Ham does is saw the nakedness of his father and told his brothers. His brothers go out and cover their faces backwards, saw not their father's nakedness. Something in there says that there is more than meets the eye. Now, this is one of those issues in which determining what was the sin of Ham is all over the map to try to figure it out. Look at the old Jewish sages and the rabbis and see what they have to say, and they'll have a dozen different possibilities. Look at the Christian interpreters and see what they have to say, and there's a dozen possibilities. This issue of their father's nakedness, that is used one other time in Scripture, and it actually is referring to the mother. Their father's nakedness, the father's nakedness is actually the mother, and an incestuous relationship that goes on with the mother in that other text. So using Scripture to interpret Scripture, you might come up with that issue right there, that while Noah was drunk, that Ham comes in and has an incestuous relationship with his mother. There are others who say, no, this is some sort of homosexuality kind of thing. There's others who say, no, this is just a shame kind of thing, and he's mocking his father. There are a number of different things that you can do. I think that in the end, this is going to be one of those that it is well worth debating all of the various interpretations that can be given. Obviously, all of them cannot be true. By debating the various issues, we get a better handle on it. We come to know it by researching them. We say, well, okay, this guy says this, and at first that sounded just crazy to me, but now I read him, I heard him all the way through to the end. He's got a decent argument. You know, it doesn't convince me, nor do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, but it's interesting, and I see something, and I learned something by following that train of thought for a little bit. I think this is one of those that maybe even is given to us to be mysterious. We know that Ham did something that caused his father to curse him toward slavery. Interesting. I just preached a sermon recently in our series called The Life and Times of Abraham about God saying to Abram, you're not really going to get the land. You're not going to have so much to set a foot on. You're going to die a good old age, but the land is never going to be yours. It's not going to be given even to the descendants for 400 years. They are going to go down and they're going to be slaves. Well, what God has really done here is reversed the curse of Ham for a while. Because look at this. Ham is the father of Canaan, and the curse comes down here later in verse, say, 25. Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Well, Canaan is a descendant of Ham, and the Egyptians were descendants of Ham. And it just so happens that in this 400-year period, the Shemites were going to be servants of the Hamites. A 400-year reversal of what Noah had proclaimed. Why does God do this? What's taking place? Now, in all of these, I think the best we can do, and unfortunately I hate to leave it here, the best we can do is to say, now we see through a glass darkly. We can't quite figure out some of these mysteries. We know that something's a breast here, and something's a foot here, and something's happening here, but we can't quite figure out exactly what that is as we begin to put that together. And yet I think on all of these things, it really is worth it to study over time the various interpretations of this. You know, I think this is one of the benefits of the Jewish method of studying the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. The parashah, I believe, is the name for it. The parashah is, let's call it the weekly, not really the daily, but the weekly reading of a section of the Torah. And they'll go to Sabbath and they'll begin that reading. That section of the Torah will be read out loud. But then in the yeshiva or around the dinner table or wherever it is, for that week, they will discuss that particular passage. Well, it's helpful that the Torah is only 5 books, not 66 books. And they've got this broken out so that over the course of the year, every year you come to a point, and they've got Hebrew names for every section of these 52 segments, and they go through and they look at it again and again and again, and they come to these things of saying, what's the sin of Ham? Well, I'm not really sure. Maimonides says, Rashi says, this rabbi says, this group says, such and such says, so and so says, this text says, and they, shall we say, rehash that on an annual basis. And it does help them to say, last year I just totally rejected that idea, but since then I've sort of learned some things and I begin to put these things together. And I think it would not be a bad thing for a believer to take certain, especially mysterious passages of the Scripture and say, you know what? Every year in February, whatever you pick, every year in February, I'm going to stop and I'm going to look at that again. I'm going to try to dig that out one more time. I'm going to see if I can figure anything out. And I think there's some benefit to that. I am currently at randywhiteministries.org teaching through the book of Romans again for, I don't know, the 6th, 7th time. And yet here we come at it again. Now, many preachers might say, yeah, I've already done the book of Romans. I did that. So don't need to do that one again. I need to go to one that I haven't done. My point of view is I've done the book of Romans, but I don't think I figured it out. I don't think I had it right. And now I come at the book of Romans again and say, you know what? I think I've got this. I'm closer to understanding it. I want to do it. And so we did Romans graphically presented at our fall retreat in Branson. And now we're doing Romans rightly divided and verse by verse, trying to get the handle on this thing. And then, I wouldn't be surprised if when we're done, we don't say, you know what, another year or two, we ought to come back to Romans because there's so much in here that takes a while to grasp. And this is one of those things I think we can begin to do when we come to something like this mystery of the sin of Ham. What is the sin of Ham? Let's start keeping a journal of all the possibilities that the seed of Ham is, and on a fairly regular basis, let's try to figure it out. It would also not be a good thing, I don't know that I'm going to do it, but I'll throw this out there anyway, to have an annual conference on biblical conundrums. And each year come and address and have a different perspective. Have someone else come and say, you tell us what you think it is. And trying to figure all that out could be of great benefit and be able to look at that. I appreciate the question from Bruce in Green Bay. Very good. Here's a question that comes from Cliff in Ontario. Since when did reading the Bible with a dispensational hermeneutic become an ism? How do we rightly divide this? Dispensational ism. Well, why is it an ism, and what's up with all the isms? I think that if we were to take a look at this, we would see that ism, of course, a suffix that. What is it? What is it? What does it mean? Let's go ahead and pull up. Here is the Oxford English Dictionary. Let's pull up ism as a suffix right here and see what they have to say. Just learning a little bit about ism right here. Forming a simple noun of action, usually accompanying a verb, as in eyes. Naming the process or the completed action. So, dispensational is a noun. Dispensationalism is the verb that goes with that noun, and we begin to take that, and it is making the noun into a verb. So dispensationalism. I'm not sure. Again, I really like the ism process, making it into an ism, but I can understand what is covenantalism. A mechanism, he's got a magnetism, all those things that come in through all that. Okay, I hate to end the program early, but the internet repair is here, and we would rather have the internet repair than continue the program. So we will pick up here tomorrow, hopefully with good, speedy internet. Again, sorry to cut this program off here a little bit and shut it down quick, but stay tuned for our Tuesday broadcast, and there we will be ready to go, and we'll do it quickly. God bless you. For an abbreviated program, go take on the day.